Hello, everyone, and welcome to my podcast. My name is Tiffany, and my husband and I are the owners of Creative Designs by Tiffany, a flower shop and event space located in upstate New York. I have been tending to feature things and people who have a depth to them. What originally started as a podcast to give you a little bit of knowledge about the floral industry has grown to hold some of the most meaningful conversations of my life. I hope it gets you thinking and blesses you in its own right. Got it the second time. That's the second time I've gotten it without having to mess up.
Reading it doesn't count.
I know. You got those little missteps and stuff, so you want it to be perfect, especially on a podcast.
Too fast, though. Go slower. You can look up every once in a while.
That'll be my next thing and connect with
I could do a
everyone,
teleprompter for her, guys, but, it's...
That's our joke, every single one. So who here today is Dave Warner, producer of Tiffany Talk.
Hello.
And he's producer extraordinaire now. He's got quite a few podcasts, I think, that he's rolling and hosting. And so pretty cool. And then my guests today are Zach and Maggie Music is what I know you guys as on Instagram. And I'm assuming your names are Zach and Maggie. I didn't even ask you that too. Okay, awesome. So
we get all the time, we play a lot of house concerts and stuff around the country, and we'll be driving to stay in someone's home, and they're like, I'm so embarrassed to ask, what's your last name?
That's amazing. That's amazing.
It's music.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it's music. It is music.
Exactly.
So this is how far away we can get without actually saying it. So
That's awesome. That is very cool. Well, either way, so how I heard about Zach and Maggie was last year, Redeemer Church in Utica, who we had Pastor Mike on as my Christmas episode last year. That's a church that we attend. They had a concert, we'll say, that was kind of like an outreach type of thing with the Gettys. Getty Music, I think is what they're called. Mm-hmm. I'm not even sure. I think Getty Music.
Yeah, Keith and Kristen Getty.
Yeah.
Similar approach. Is music the last name?
Yeah, exactly. So they had come to the Stanley Theatre last year and had this excellent performance in the middle of December. So I said, well, this year they're doing it again. And I had reached out to Zach and Maggie on Instagram, and I just said, hey, would you guys want to do a quick podcast about it? Because it's close to our area. People can still get tickets. There's still a couple of weeks until the actual concert here. You guys have your own kind of set of music going on, too. So I said, I think it's kind of neat to talk to you guys, and you're willing to come on. So thanks so much for joining us today. So so tell me a little bit about yourselves. You're not from native to New York, right? You visited Utica last year. So so tell me a little bit about you guys, how you got started and what you kind of do.
Yeah, so we're in Nashville now. I'm originally from Kentucky. Zach's originally from St. Louis. We both went to Belmont University, and we're in the bluegrass ensemble there. That's where we met. And let's see, I guess a couple of years later, we got married, and then we've been playing music ever since we met, and still playing music, and working on our own show as well, called Zach and Maggie.
That's
amazing. Most folks, if they're not familiar with kind of the music scene, so we've been for basically Maggie since high school, but me since college. We've been what we call session musicians.
Okay.
Or
can you
gig
explain
workers.
that a little bit for anybody listening?
Basically, we get hired to be specialists on our instruments and play behind whatever artist wants us.
That's
so
awesome.
We're freelance musicians, and we'll play behind country acts or bluegrass acts or Christian acts. And as you mentioned, the Gettys is probably who most people might have seen us with. They've taken us to some really amazing places all over the world. But play for some country stars you might know from time to time. But typically it's just being that quiet person behind the artist. Well, not too quiet, because they are hired to make music.
Person.
Yeah, a quiet noisemaker.
Yes.
I'm still stuck on the fact how quickly she glossed over the fact that you guys got married. It was like she just slipped that in and kept going.
Maggie is to the point and with the facts.
I'm very concise.
Right. Paul would like Maggie. She gives just the facts.
Very good.
I'm from Kentucky. He's from Chicago. We got married. Next.
That's awesome, though. So how did you end up doing what you're doing then together? So was it before you got married, or were you guys kind of separate and then you got married? How did that kind of come together?
As far as like with Gettys, I started playing with them my last year of college, and Zach started playing with them, I guess, about a year and a half after that.
And we'd been dating for a couple of years during that time. We were finishing up school.
So we played music all the time, just as far as like, going to school for music. I was a violin performance major and he was commercial guitar major. Mm-hmm. And so we played a lot at school. Didn't have like our own music or anything like that yet, but we met the Gettys. Most Nashville gigs are through relationships.
Yes.
So I played through a church I was attending here in town. Met a guy who he does all these kind of random local gigs. He had a big family and he wanted to say, I just want to stay local. I don't want to travel. Yep. So he does a lot of weddings and corporate events and things like that. And one of the things was at the Opryland Hotel here which is where they tend to host the Sing Conference. If you're familiar with the Gettys
Yep.
Sing Conference, there used to be an Irish pub in there, and they would have regular, like 4 hours in the evening, just this band playing old pub tunes. And he asked me, he said, "Hey, do you play Irish music?" I said, "Well, I can." And we did that gig about once a week for almost a full year. And we met some folks in the Irish community here in Nashville. So when the Gettys moved in, we got roped in. And Keith was hosting these parties he liked to call green grass, which was bluegrass and Irish musicians coming together, because we share a lot of the same musical history. And from that, we kind of got known. And when spots opened up in the band, we ended up filling them.
That's awesome. And I won't give too much away because you are still coming, but we saw it last year. And I do remember seeing each of you individually, and I was like so talented. And there's a couple spots in there that I think you're kind of featured in. It probably has changed this year, but I won't give too much away, but they're definitely a feature you guys want to see if you haven't yet. So, yes. So, anyway, so is this kind of like this is your dream right now? Or are you like going towards something else, or is this just you get to travel the world and kind of do the backup thing, or what do you guys think?
Yeah, I really love it. I mean, ever since I knew that I could play fiddle and also travel, that's kind of all I wanted to do.
That's awesome.
So that's all I've done. I have nothing else to show for myself. So yeah, I just love playing music. It's fun to play with different people. We play a lot with Gettys, but we also get to play with some other folks too, and that just keeps it interesting, just learning different music. And then we've been working on our show since 2019, I guess.
We both had kind of we were aiming on these careers towards kind of playing behind other musicians. There's a lot more availability, a lot less risk behind that. If you're good enough and at playing your instrument that you can kind of play whatever's put in front of you, and you're a congenial person, for lack of a better term, somebody who's easy to travel with.
Yeah. Most of your time is spent, traveling and not on stage.
Yes.
The on stage time is a couple hours every night. But
right.
So the rest of the time,
if you catch those two thresholds, you're pretty good. But we've both kind of been thinking about potentially leading our own shows. Kind of these were dreams as kids, and it was born actually out of Instagram. We would come to these parties or events, and people would see the two of us and they go like, "Well, you two should play something."
We're like, we don't know anything together.
Yeah, we don't like sit and practice songs in the same room. We go to separate parts of the house, and because when you're practicing, you're looking for the problems you're making. So someone else's problems are just going to interfere with mine. So we decided we should do a weekly video series where we just play a tune that we learn together, arrange for the two of us.
It'll be just 1 minute's worth.
Yeah, just one snippet of it. And we started posting, and people kind of liked it. It's nothing groundbreaking. You wouldn't use the term viral or whatnot, but it was affirming that this is fun music. And after about a year of that, I have always been writing songs in the background. Just I liked the process. It was always a fun thing for me. And I had this one specific song called Double Grave, which we put out. It was one of the first singles we put out. And it's kind of a Halloween song about the premise is basically a man who has died sitting in his casket in the afterlife, kind of waiting on his wife. And he's a little perturbed that she's taking so long.
I listened to that one.
Yeah,
I did. Yeah. I thought a little twisted here, but all right.
And it just kind of hit it off, and we thought, I think we could combine our shows, because I have this kind of songwriting side. She has this incredible violin showmanship and whatnot, and she writes these great instrumentals. And we thought, well, let's just put all this together. And so far, it's been 4 or 5 years of doing this show on the side. It's still growing. You talk about owning a flower shop. A lot of people don't realize starting a band is like starting a business.
Yes. Yep.
It's you don't have a brick and mortar store, but almost all the same problems of marketing and budgeting and figuring that, and how do people know about my space. So we're still in that process, and but it's been wonderful, and we love it.
That's awesome.
So in a way, yes, to answer your question, I feel like we are living our dreams.
That's
it's
awesome.
just we're human beings. So the satisfaction is a different thing from feeling your dreams. But if you look at it on paper, we have accomplished it.
That's awesome. That's very, very cool. So tell me a little bit about like a touring then, because I did like on Instagram, I saw you guys have kind of gone all over the place, and I'm not sure if that's like with the Gettys, if it's on your own. How has that kind of been? Where are some of the highlight places you guys have been besides Utica, New York? We know Utica is your favorite, right? So
you've been to Utica a couple times before with other bands, right?
Oh, that's right. right. I forgot about that. Yeah, I think I played the Irish Festival up there a couple times.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Those guys bug me all the time to put stuff out in the paper. They're really good at their marketing, let me tell you.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
Well,
awesome.
come March, they're knocking on your door, I'm sure. Yeah.
No, they're knocking on my door every month, really. They really are. Yeah,
Right.
they
Yeah,
do.
March is probably the one month they don't have to knock on doors.
Probably, yeah.
Great. Yeah, I think it's probably our furthest travels have been with Gettys.
Yeah.
We got to go to South Korea for the first time this year, and then the 2 years before that also included Singapore and Australia, and of course they take us to Ireland quite often, which is really fun.
Yeah.
And
We'll be there in a few
yeah,
weeks, actually.
yeah, it's true. It actually the Christmas tour ends in Ireland this year, which is
Awesome.
it's never gone overseas before, so that'll be
Wow.
interesting.
Very
But
cool.
yeah, as far as favorites, it kind of
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to, I feel like, scale some of the beauty of some place very close by with the adventure of just going far away,
yeah, that's true.
which is always
That's
difficult.
true.
So the notables, of course, are going to be places like Australia and South Korea and Africa. We went to Ghana
Mhm.
once for a short trip with International Justice Mission for a
Wow.
charity filming that we did, and that was a real soul shaping event. I feel like, or
For
trip.
sure. Yeah, you kind of have like favorites for different reasons kind of thing.
That's
you know,
awesome.
so that
Yeah.
one was just so eye-opening and, made aware of so many things you never even thought about. And then others, it's like, well, this is just the most beautiful scene I've ever seen.
Yeah.
So but it's been a huge blessing to get to travel, and a lot of times we'll tack on our vacations to
Yeah.
wherever we end up.
Yes.
We're already here,
Yeah.
and so why not?
That's great. That is great. I did see that, and I wondered. I was like, so for Christmas, will you be in Ireland then, or will you be back stateside, or is it?
We'll come back home 22nd.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll
Awesome.
still get
So
to
you
have
still-
Christmas with our family. and
That's
everything.
great. That is very.
We took
cool.
our big vacation after that South Korea trip this
Okay.
time. So we
Yes.
okay,
So you get to go
settle
back,
now. We'll come
yes.
back home.
That's good. That's good. So did you
I
a
have one question
Yeah.
about the difference between, violin and fiddle.
All right. Okay.
Because are they very different? I mean, sound-wise, there's some difference there, but if you took that classical approach to violin,
Uh-huh.
how did you get up into fiddling, and what's the difference?
Yeah, so the actual instrument itself is the same. The music styles associated with it, a lot of times people will refer to like bluegrass or Irish or Scottish. They'll a lot of times refer to that as fiddle. And then like the jazz and classical, a lot of times they call that violin. There's really no difference. And a lot of people, even like some of the really, top echelons of classical musicians will still say fiddle.
Itzhak Perlman
So-
is famous for
Really?
calling it fiddle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
I-
people do use it interchangeably. So it's really just tendencies, but it's really just style,
I thought it was a different instrument, to be honest.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
you get two for the price of one. So
So tell me what you guys all play, because we've seen you. Well, I've seen you in concert, but what actually do you play, and then what do you play like kind of as a minor or like kind of play around with, but maybe not your main instrument?
Sure.
fiddle would be my main instrument. And I grew up with classical lessons, and then being from Kentucky, we'd go to fiddle contest and there'd be fiddle teachers kind of on the side, but I grew up classically. And then I'll do a bit of mandolin, and then some Irish dancing, and then occasionally some background vocals.
Yeah. She's become quite a singer. She's really down on herself singing wise, but she's really most people's favorite on the album, to be honest. Yeah. Maggie deals in high quality, few amounts. I'm the opposite, which is low quality, widespread. Where I play like
One man band. Yes. That's awesome.
Yeah, mostly guitar. Acoustic guitar is kind of specialty
Okay.
because of bluegrass and kind of Chet Atkinsy style guitar playing. Of course, electric is now becoming a bigger part. And then banjo, mandolin, dobro. That's the slide one that you'll see, like plays behind Alison Krauss. A little bit of piano, a little bit of bass, a little bit of
You
basically.
usually say a little in anything except for what you
Yeah.
spit into.
Yeah, anything I don't have to spit into. try my hand at.
That's a good way to put it, definitely.
Yeah.
So, I don't. What are we on time? I don't even know on time.
You're good, you're good.
Okay,
You
I
got
was gonna
plenty of
say
time.
I've got to put in a commercial break here, and I don't know how to separate it out. So I'm just gonna keep rolling. You can
Keep going.
You can interrupt it in between. So, see, this is where it's all this uncandid camera.
She makes all
whatever.
this up as she goes.
I do. I
love
really
it.
do.
Love it.
It's fun. It's so much fun, though. So that was what I was going to ask you then. So, how did you guys start with your own music then? And then I'm going to backtrack and ask you, if you can, who you've kind of backed up besides the Gettys that people may have heard of. So we'll start off with how you guys kind of started doing your own music first. How's
Sure.
that? So
Yeah.
So-
Yes. After the Instagram videos, it was kind of
Yeah.
working on an EP.
Yeah.
Trying to think, what did we do next? We did an EP in 2019 that we released, and then some
Took
music
2 years
videos.
off for some reason. There was a
Yeah,
bug
it's-
going around.
Yeah. But that's when a lot of musicians did a lot more music. I mean, they in their house and really.
Yes, a lot moved that way. I moved into video during that time.
Yep.
And ended up doing a lot of video work, which was great. I've got a little.
We
bit of
did
skill set.
have COVID Fest, which was a big
That was fun.
Really?
online festival.
It was one of the first online festivals that happened. Just kind of looked really quickly at some of the skill sets we had available. We had a few gigs cancel, and this is back when we all thought it was over by Easter.
Yeah.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we called up a bunch of friends. I did pre-made videos because I didn't like the idea of live streaming and making everyone sit in front of a camera at the time. So they all filmed a video. In fact, one band, Runa, who plays that Utica festival, Irish festival, they were literally leaving their last gig, and as a band they said, quick, let's film this for COVID Fest, and then they all went home to quarantine.
Oh, wow.
And we aired it. Was 7 hours long, and most people stayed through the whole thing because it was just that first weekend of full COVID.
Mhm.
Washington posted a write-up. It was a real big thing, and it really helped because it turned my work from, oh, I don't have gigs to play, to a whole bunch of festivals calling, hey, how did you do that? And can you help?
That is awesome.
God, I would have loved to be part of that.
Yeah.
It was fun. It was a good day. Yeah.
Well, I was trying to live stream an ABA game last night with no internet, so we can talk about that.
How that actually works.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
But yeah, so back to the band. So yeah, we did the little EP, and we're still kind of figuring out at that point, what is the sound?
Yeah,
What do we
that
wanna
was kind of
focus on?
figuring out like what to head towards, and the things that people responded to the best was the kind of stuff that we like playing the best, which tended to be something with a little bit of a comical bent in
Mhm.
it. Like even the serious songs that Zach writes end
Yeah.
up having some sort of joke, and so he always says that's why he can't write hymns, because he's gonna put a joke.
Which
So,
is hilarious.
Yeah. And so 2020, excuse me, 2021, we did our full length album and released that January of 23.
Yeah.
And then we're about to do another one this coming January, or record it, not release, but record another one this coming January.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just kind of like, it's a lot of the same things, but just taking a step forward and a step forward and keeping your head down, doing the next thing, you know? So
Very, very cool.
Yeah.
So
Just
did
keep
you-
writing, keep playing.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm going to ask Dave now. I'm going to put him on the spot. So you did listen to some of their music.
I did.
then? So what did you pick out from their?
Well, one of the things I'm interested in is, you've got part of it was bluegrassy,
Mhm.
but it wasn't exactly bluegrassy, right?
Yeah.
There was, you know what I'm saying, right? Because
Oh, yeah.
you did it. So tell me.
That's exactly what we were headed for. It's like kind of, but not quite.
Yeah. But I've noticed that I had done bluegrass festivals here, been
Okay.
the guy running them here in this area for a while, and before COVID.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I really got into it. I knew nothing about it. I'm a country guy, but the bluegrass I really liked, and I loved the young people and their interpretation of bluegrass.
Yeah.
Mm,
And so talk to me a little bit about your interpretation, because it was different.
yeah.
So for this album, we kind of, I think we looked at the bluegrass is so a part of our origin story for both of our styles of playing.
Yeah.
We both grew up, like, at least on my guitar, I started in classical music and then had like a hard switch over to bluegrass at like age 13, because I went from like piano and cello to guitar. Maggie kind of had it from day one. It was always in the house. It was something you're kind of learning along with fiddle. So we didn't really think about it too consciously, because you kind of, after
Kind of just there.
it's kind of there. No matter what we play, it will have a tinge of bluegrass. So, I've described a couple times, making a record is kind of like pointing at a flag on a hill a quarter mile away, and you say, I'm going to walk there. Then you put a blindfold on and see where you end up. It's less accurate in the process because it's so many tiny choices, and a lot of those choices are kind of creative, and so many people are working on it that in the end you end up with something that might have some elements of what you imagined, but it's also fun to be surprised by it. So the bluegrass element was something that we kind of just trusted would be there. That absolutely has been, and people have responded saying a very similar thing. They're like, oh yeah, there's a little bit of bluegrass, there's a little bit of Irish, but then there's also this other thing that we're not quite sure what to call it yet, and that's part of our business thing that we're still figuring out what to call our style of music, because everybody goes, there's something there, I like it, I've heard it before, but I also haven't, and I don't know what to call it.
That was where I was stuck. And then the other part I noticed was that you obviously did your own videos. I could tell, because because they were bad, but because they were unbelievably creative. From the scripting standpoint, I thought they were like, I wouldn't have thought to do that kind of thing. And I do video work, a lot of video work and all. So I was like, okay, he did this. I know he did this. Yeah.
Well, and a big setup, the Double Grave and the Elephant in the Room are the two big videos that a lot of people reference. And I'd shout out to my little brother, Isaac. He's in Chicago. He works as a videographer on big commercials and whatnot. So I definitely, exercise my nepotism and brotherly favors and bring him in on those. And he really helps dress them and make them look nice. And we bounce a lot of ideas off each other.
Yeah, awesome. They were very creative. I liked them.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yes, and the one I was going to bring up, and I told my husband, I was like, I don't know if I should, because we're in a very small town, but the family tree one. That one, we cracked up so bad when we listened to that, and I was like, oh my goodness. But it's almost like just a little bit of truth to close to where we are.
Yep.
Some people.
Well, it's a family tree without any branches.
Anytime we perform that, it's like you're guaranteed an interesting story.
Yes, absolutely.
Someone will say something.
The amount of times some guys come up and go like, you don't know how true that story is.
Not to give away this area, but that's kind of how we were. Yeah,
no, it
is.
It
is. It's very cool. So, well, that's awesome then. So then, I'll do a quick commercial now if that works,
Okay,
and then we'll go back and we'll start talking about Christmas stuff now. So,
Sure.
All right.
All right, I just gotta find it.
A minute, I think. I don't know.
Yeah.
See, I'm
All
good
right.
at saying got this in.
Here we go.
All right.
Visit My Little Falls and stay connected with the latest news, information, and events in the city and the area. Our mission is to generate interest in the community and connect residents in a more meaningful way by facilitating deeper conversations about how these stories will shape the future of the Mohawk Valley. Join thousands of weekly visitors who stay up to date with feature stories, interviews, videos, our event calendar, and print publication, the Mohawk Valley Express. It's about timely local news for the community, keeping citizens informed about important issues, telling about the people who live and work here, and giving locally owned businesses the opportunity to reach a very targeted audience of locals and tourists alike. It's a whole new form of media-rich content developed specifically for today's mobile lifestyle and listeners. You can download our iOS app in the iTunes Store, listen to our country music streaming radio station, or sign up for a weekly newsletter. Stop by today at mylittlefalls.com. You'll be glad you did.
I think I just like watching that. That's just, I just like watching the
I could see them. They were very intense while looking at it.
It's too small on the screen for me.
Oh, I was looking at
They're
it.
going, is that Jim Halpert?
Exactly. Hey, it was actually.
I think it
was.
is,
Yeah, because they filmed a video movie here,
Yes.
A Quiet Place
Quiet
here
Place,
at
yeah.
one point.
Oh, okay.
It was
Yeah,
right
yeah.
on Main Street here. So yes, it was. Look at
Yeah.
that. Very
There you
cool. So now we'll talk a little bit about Christmas. How's that? So as I had asked you before, I forgot about this part too. So if you can, like, who have you kind of backed besides the Gettys? Or the Gettys, like you said, are kind of the main one, but are you able to even say, I don't know how this all works, but
I played for before Gettys. I played for Peter Mayer Group for 6 years, and then over COVID, I played for a little bit with Pam Tillis, and just a lot of. Let's see, we were both. There's a lot of folks that you don't know. That's just like random freelance stuff in town.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think.
There's a lot more artists out there than people realize, because there's a lot of people running that race to try and figure.
Yep.
Right now I've done some work with a guy named Philip Bowen. Some folks might see on TikTok. He's a fiddle player, kind of a big happy guy from West
Oh,
Virginia.
he's kind of a little bit heavy set, but real happy. Oh yeah, I watch his stuff all the time. He is friggin' awesome.
He's wonderful.
Mhm.
And actually,
Man.
we met because he came to the Sing conference
Really?
back in 2019. He sent me a message on Instagram, much like you did, Tiffany. And
Yep.
but his was kind of like, hey, I work in marketing, but I want to take one more crack at a music career. Here's some songs I've written. I said, dude, these sound amazing.
Awesome.
Just keep going at it. If you need some connections, let me know. Well, like a week later, in the midst of COVID, he had written some song about lockdown and whatnot, and it blew up on Reddit Live or something like that. And then he just took his marketing career and pointed it towards his own music. And he's done a fantastic job. So some folks might have seen him on America's Got Talent and all that. So I do a bunch of gigs with him these days.
That's
Mhm.
cool.
You headed out with Everett next
Everett
year.
is another country group. We're going to be opening for Larry Fleet all throughout the spring. It's the biggest names we tend to happen right next to Getty World.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So that's where, like, we got fun photos of us playing with Ricky Skaggs and Alison Krauss and
Awesome.
Stephen Curtis Chapman and a whole bunch of those folks
Mhm.
that folks might know. But actually going out and spending meaningful time and a lot of tours,
We get to go out with Sandra McCracken earlier
right.
this year. That was a real treat.
we did a whole run with Sandra McCracken. She's
Mhm.
wonderful, beautiful singer-songwriter.
That is
Um,
awesome.
Tiffany, you don't listen to country, do you?
I don't listen to a lot of country, but I and that's the thing that I was going to try and tie in with the people that you have backed before, because someone like me who isn't Irish, clearly, if you're watching it, I'm clearly not Irish, right? So not Irish, and then from there, I'm like, so there's a little bit of everything in that show, but at the same time, like, who else you've kind of played with and stuff, that all ties in. And then my thing, like, I had another guest on that was talking about it. With the quote unquote Christian scene, a lot of times, the excellence isn't there. And that was one of the things with the Gettys that I watched. And I was like, it is just one of the best concerts. Doesn't matter. I want to say it doesn't matter what you believe, but like almost doesn't matter what you believe, because
Sure.
it's just so good. And so that's what I wanted to kind of bring out with this too, that anybody who's listening, like, don't be afraid to, it's not going to be like push it down your throat religion, but it is going to be a great show. And to highlight that. So that's where I kind of wanted to go with that with the Gettys now. So the Gettys are what everybody kind of says is almost like a modern Christian hymn writer kind of sort of style. Obviously Irish. And then there's a bunch of other stuff that happens with it too. And at church, they said there was someone else, I can't remember who else is touring with you too, that was like a quick, I'm not sure what his name is.
Blessing Offer will be at Utica.
Is a new feature and stuff with that too.
Yeah.
So so can you tell me a little bit about the show without giving too much away, like kind of how it starts out, or kind of the feel of it, what people can kind of expect?
Keith likes to say that the show is kind of divided into two halves, as you'd expect with a show, but they have two kind of distinctive things you'll notice. The first, he says, like an Irish party. So that's just, like you said, a bunch of fun songs. The band always does a big instrumental. I would totally agree with what you said about some of the stereotypes on Christian music and excellence. And that was one of the things that drew us to the Gettys. Pardon me. We weren't pursuing directly out of college playing for Christian artists, but when we saw what the Gettys were doing, we thought this is too cool to not be a part of. And they appreciate kind of the excellence. So that first half is really kind of a broad spectrum of Christmas music, some of that Irish Christmas specifically, and then just other creative ventures. The back half is a lessons and carol service, which folks might be familiar. It's an English tradition out of King's College, Cambridge, where they read the 9 lessons, prayers, and segments of the Christmas story, and those are punctuated with different songs. And the songs change every year. Or at least the order changes and the arrangements and everything. But it's a real special time. Their other big message, kind of when it's not Christmas season, is out of the hymns. They're always trying to encourage churches to be picking songs and focusing their music towards congregational singing. A little bit less of, hey, here's a discounted rock concert on a Sunday morning. But like, hey, we're here to sing these truths, to sing what we're doing here. And it's truly one of the more unique elements of church life is getting to sing together as a congregation. And then they also, they take that and point to say, if the songs aren't designed for congregational singing, then that becomes really difficult. And so they're always about encouraging that. And what better time than at Christmas for everyone to sing songs together? So there's always some great, everyone in the room singing Silent Night, Come All You Faithful, and all these great Christmas classics that you know. And then they introduce a couple new ones that they've written or people on their team have written.
Awesome. So
it's a real spectacle. But yes, you're right. It's anybody can come to the show. And we understand Christmas is a time that some folks that whether they grew up in a church and aren't there anymore, or they're curious about stuff, or they just want to feel the Christmas stuff, the show is absolutely there for you. And then those who are believing, it tells the story very clearly in a wonderful way.
That's awesome. That is awesome. So do you guys have a favorite song to play? Like, it has nothing to do with lyrics, just a favorite song that you love hearing us even sing back or whatever.
Mine kind of changes all the time. But I think one of my favorites of the last couple of years has been Of the Father's Love Begotten. It's just such a pretty melody.
Yeah.
I don't actually play on it. It's just a pretty
you just
song.
soak it all in. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
For this show, I'll give one spoiler away in that they are having me come out and sing one song. So I get to step out from the shadows, sing one song. And it's a really fun arrangement of the old spiritual Wayfaring Stranger.
Is that Christmas?
Huh?
Is that a Christmas song?
Yeah, in a way. They're doing it. So it is.
That's why I didn't say that one.
I get what you're saying.
It's a surprise for her too.
Right.
Maybe I misheard the question. Did you ask a general Christmas?
She said Christmas.
Oh, wow. I'm
Christmas.
way off.
Christmas. Well,
I'm still in show selling mode. Like, let me tell you, hey, you got to come see this.
What's your favorite Christmas song?
What is my favorite Christmas song? See, now
It's the one he sings.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I've always had an affinity for no, I can't think of it.
How's it go?
Come thou long expected Jesus.
That is really pretty.
It's once people say, I would say it's not as flashy of a Christmas song, but once the whole congregation starts singing, it really feels like this is a community Christmas.
Yeah.
There's something about that song that really just draws people in that I love.
Yeah, that is really cool. And I'm not sure how many people are seated at the Stanley. I want to say about 3,000 maybe.
I don't know.
Is it the same venue? We don't always know the details.
Yeah, it is. Yep, it's the same venue as
Beautiful
last year.
theater.
So,
That venue is so pretty.
yep.
Yeah.
That is pretty there, yeah.
And
yeah.
you've been to Carnegie Hall, right, with the Gettys. I know they usually go right around when they're up here.
Yeah, I think we play it the following night
Okay.
after Utica.
Yep.
This will be our 9th time there? 10th time there? 10th
I have
time.
to stop and add.
I think it's our 10th time at Carnegie Hall.
It's amazing.
Wow.
Maggie's still counting.
I know.
Yeah.
That's accurate. That's it. That's
Yeah.
good.
11?
If you count 20. Because
I
we
don't
didn't do
count 2020. So
Okay.
I came up with 11,
Yeah.
which is probably
That
means
might
it's 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've figured out who the AR one is in the family.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's amazing, man. So, all right. So now I have to ask a fun question about the area. So, were you here for like overnight when you were here, or were you here for like in and out? You come in, you
I
practice,
think it
you
was
go.
in and out.
Okay. All right. So you haven't had a chance to do the Utica stuff, the Utica greens, the Utica.
I have had
Rickies.
Utica greens. They were
You
there.
have? Okay. Those are the staples. I'm trying to think where else there would be around here. Utica
Because I
coffee.
was like, I see a lot of food trucks, but when you see that one, it's like, what in the world
Yes.
is that? I've never heard of that.
Yeah.
It's grass clippings. You know,
Yeah,
we save them
basically.
from our lawns and we just give them to
It's
these
a health
guys.
food.
Yes.
Yeah,
Exactly.
We did
Exactly.
get to a. Did we? Get
We
to a
made
coffee
it to a
shop?
coffee shop for sure.
You
Just
made it
right
to a
down the
coffee
street
shop.
from the
Yeah.
theater.
Okay.
Yeah, Utica coffee.
All right, it's probably
Yeah,
Utica
yeah.
coffee.
Yeah.
See,
Yeah.
as I'm saying it, everything they do, they just put Utica in front of, and they so it's
Okay.
Utica coffee,
Okay.
Utica greens, Utica Riggies,
Makes
all
it
of
real
that.
easy to
So, yeah.
remember.
Irish Christmas.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So, all right. So I know we'll link it here. I'll put it in the ad of where they can get tickets and stuff from it. But for you guys, we're going to circle back now. So just you guys, how can people follow you, find you? I had done Instagram. Are you on Facebook, social media, websites, all of that? So if you can tell us kind of how they can
Yeah,
find you
sure.
guys specifically.
So the central location is zachandmaggie.com. That's our
Okay.
website. And Zach is with an H, just
Okay.
to make that clear. And then, but yeah, Instagram is probably our most active, most favorite media site to be on
Mine too.
regularly if you like that kind of thing. Our YouTube is fun, as you mentioned. A lot of the bigger music videos go up on YouTube.
Okay.
But other than that, it's pretty easy to find. Where Spotify is always a big help for if people like to follow folks on that, or Apple Music, or any of those music listening sites. I don't know about y'all. I forget to follow artists I love on those because it's not as interactive in a weird way. But that means when we release new music, which we will next year, you'll get a quick notification like, oh, that's right, I wanted to hear what they were putting out.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And as you're saying that, I think I saw something. Did you do a cooking thing on
Yeah,
your
yeah.
YouTube? So tell me quick about that too. So what was that? How did you come up with that idea? Just you guys love to cook?
Oh, well, we just happen to. Now, how close are your instruments if we said you need to play a piece?
Oh, those are in another building.
Yeah.
They're kind of on.
Actually, most of them are on the truck for the tour.
I was
Right
going
now.
to say, you're kind of almost on tour now, right? Or they
We
started
leave.
touring? Yeah.
We did a show here in Nashville
Okay.
on Saturday, and then we will drive to Jackson, Tennessee, and play tomorrow. And then the night after that, we get on a bus.
Okay.
So we feel like we're in like half tour mode because we're still in town. So it's like you keep saying bye but not leaving. So
Right.
it's
Funny.
Practice.
but usually we end in Nashville. So it's kind of like, are we done? You know.
Yeah.
But
This year.
so
cookbook.
with the cookbook, we really love cooking, and we were trying to figure out other ways to market the album. And so we thought, what if we paired a recipe with each track on the album and put that out on Instagram? So
cool.
we so like Elephant in the Room is the title track of the album. So we called the recipe book. It eventually became a recipe book, but it was called is called the How to Cook the Elephant in the Room.
Amazing.
So the dish we paired with the elephant is elephant in the shroom, and it is a mushroom risotto.
Awesome.
Oh.
So
There we go.
Did you come
Wow.
up with
Wow.
these on
Wow.
your own, or is this like?
It's a combination. So we
Okay.
have some recipes that were passed down,
Okay.
some that we came up with on our own, and then some that are like our takes on a recipe
Awesome.
that we knew.
Yeah.
So
I always like to mention that. So you mentioned Family Tree. So this was actually a
I
recipe
wonder
that
what
we're
this one
pretty
is.
sure-
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out if these pictures actually translate.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
But it was an actual recipe that we're pretty sure comes from like the exact town area that Maggie's from.
I tried to
Kentucky.
Google it. It doesn't exist.
But it's a riff on a classic in the sense that it's a fried bologna sandwich.
Okay. Yep.
Fried bologna on white bread with a white sauce. So it
Okay.
sounds like I know a lot of people, they kind of turn their nose up like, we go to bologna on white sauce, and they're like, what?
Yeah.
But honestly, it tastes like biscuits and gravy
It's so
with meat.
good.
It's
Oh,
amazing.
yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
that's one of the passed down ones.
Yeah, yeah.
So
But then we have some other fun ones like a hummus dish with braised pork, and then we'll have some. But we draw from a lot of stuff, and last night we were working on recipes for the next album
That's
already.
awesome.
Oh, wow.
That is
Wow.
very, very cool.
Sometime.
So then, can we get that cookbook anywhere?
So that's on the website.
That is
Back
on the
in the
website too.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
And with the next album, there'll be another cookbook too.
Oh
So,
yeah.
Okay.
It was a big hit.
amazing.
People don't buy CDs at a merch table anymore, so
No,
Right,
no.
right.
But they will buy a cookbook.
Yeah.
I understand this. What a marketing ploy.
Look at this.
Just
They're
trying,
good.
just trying.
That's amazing. That is amazing.
that way we can deduct our lunches too.
Exactly.
Right.
yeah.
That's true. That's very true.
Oh,
then.
good
So-
Lord.
And what's trial and error? Were you guys like, do you have to pick through and say, oh, we
Yeah,
need to
there's
do
yeah.
this
actually
myself?
more error than I realized.
Yes, I'm sure.
You
sure.
think you got something down and you make it, or you try to write it out. It's
Yeah.
like, oh wait, writing this out is a whole nother. So it was fun, but it was more involved than we realized. So.
Yeah, but we loved it.
Yeah.
And it's like we'll happily get back into it.
Mhm.
Gosh, I think that you did a wine poached pears with a sweet wine sauce that goes on top with pistachios and cream. But that wine sauce took so
Oh my
long to
gosh.
get the right consistency.
Yeah.
I think you had to make it 8 times or
Oh
something.
my goodness.
Wow.
That's awesome though. So they're tried and
That
true
was-
recipes
We
then. That's
haven't had
good.
pears in a year though.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because it was too much work, right?
Yeah. Had too many.
Yeah.
That's amazing
Yeah.
then. So well good. Well, where do you guys head now from, like you started to say? So you're kind of touring all over the
We're good.
eastern seaboard, or are you middle states right now, or
Yeah, pretty much everything is going to be east of
Okay.
Mississippi. We kind of it feels like we almost spiral out from Nashville and then
Okay.
end up in Ireland.
Okay.
So we got Jackson, Tennessee, which is just 2 hours away from Nashville. Tomorrow, then we go up to Lexington to the Ark.
Okay. Oh, I
that's up
did
there.
see that. That's
And
very
then-
cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it's some of the Carolinas, Charlotte, and a few others. Birmingham,
Atlanta,
do that, and then work our way up.
Philadelphia.
Yeah, we'll do outside Philly, and then Utica, and then New York, and then end up in Belfast.
Awesome. Very cool.
But no, it's fun. We a funny joke just to say it, because our first on the bus, we're starting tour, what feels like tour.
Yeah.
We're at the Ark. The last show in Belfast, a lot of Americans don't know, Belfast is where the Titanic was built, and they have an amazing Titanic museum, and it's right next to the arena that we're playing with the Gettys. So we kind of start at the Ark and we end at the Titanic. So Maggie said it's called Sink an Irish Christmas.
That's amazing.
Oh, that's great.
That's that pun that if you listen to their music and you
And
guys
they've got
write
that
it,
stuff
right?
in there.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's very
That's
good.
all- Maggie's got the puns for
That's
days.
amazing. That is amazing. So I'm going to ask you one last question too that I didn't prep you on this and stuff, but let me. So if somebody is listening and they don't want to be like the front people and they want to do what you do, what would you give them for advice? What would you say to them?
Yeah, I mean, you have to get out and meet people. I always say that almost any gig that I look back on that I got, there was some seed planted that I didn't even know about like 2 years prior. So it's always that thing of if you network with people. I mean, the weird thing is that with music, it's like these people are my friends. So it feels weird to say the word network. But the thing is that if you're out of sight, you're out of mind. So it's kind of like if you're in the music scene and you want to get called for shows, you can't be a hermit. You have to get out and play, especially in the bluegrass scene. I mean, that's one of the things people do for fun. They'll get together and just have a jam and people play tunes back and forth. And so that's usually the advice I say, because you have to have that patience of, you don't even really know who you might meet that might need a fiddle player the next week, but it also might be 2 years from now,
Yeah.
Awesome.
And I would add to that, because that's the whole social side, and I agree with everything she says. The other side, if you're a younger person or you're kind of learning your instrument, is you do have to aim for truly excellence and kind of a uniqueness. Figure out, you need to be able to feel like you can play anything that's put in front of you, if given enough time. You show up, it's the basic, any business is that you're solving someone's problem. And if their problem is, I need a great person playing this part, then you have to be that great person. So really aim high. It takes a lot of time and it works slow. Really develop your habits of practice, because that feeds into more than just your music. We use that all the time in other things like cooking,
Yes.
to be honest.
That's amazing. Well, I can't thank you guys enough for being on. This is so much fun to talk to you guys. And I'm so happy to see that you are coming back to Utica in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And thank you guys so much for being on. We'll link all of the stuff. He's going to do it on the scrollers, whatever. So
Yeah, something.
yeah.
Thank
So
you.
we hope you guys.
I assume we'll see you guys at the show.
Yeah,
Yes.
we will. So,
Wonderful. All right.
all
Just come out
right.
and say hey.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you guys.
All right. Thank you guys.
Thank you.